Philosophers talk to our times. Another, breaking the prism, fracturing the prism. Another's, others, other. Others me. When I was a young man, in my early 20s, Cambridge was agog at the notion of otherdom. Otherdom had just really hit the university, it seemed to me. Books were being written as Greek and their other, when once they'd have been written as Greek in the barbarian world. Everything was being held up as a mirror to the West. We were understanding ourselves through our deep relationship with our other. Now, being the child of a psychoanalyst, I hated this kind of soft psychoanalytical speech. And I wrote a long essay entitled Another, Others, Other, Others, Me, to try and clear my mind from it. And right at the core of that essay is an idea whose time is yet to come. And it rests on one of the subtleties of the English language, looking back on it. And that is the word another. In French, to say another, you tend to say un autre, an other. But if you're English, the meaning isn't nearly the same. Another's other, an other, and another are not even, they're not nearly this, they are related, but they're conceptually very different. An other is an O spelled capital, as Deleuze would say. A big thing. That big thing that lies beyond me. Another is a far gentler thing. Something I am caught up being, something I could be. It's just another. Deleuze, I think, gives a wonderful example. He says it's a man with a toothache on a train, and me watching that man. For I too have been on a train with a toothache. And so it is my another. The mirror is far closer to the mind. It's something you were yesterday or tomorrow. Others, then, are something you can never be in the middle with. Never be caught in some sort of exchange. They are always that where the exchange is necessarily ruptured. Another is defined by the exchange. How you are relating to them. How you are ordering them in relation to you and to other and others. And another, and another, and another, and another. And the whole thing dancing away. And why does this matter to you? This old-fashioned philosophical speculation. Well, really, I might very pompously claim that in the end, the chance for human civilization to understand itself, to be able to move on from an impasse where we're in severe danger of unpicking, the glue of the climate that has allowed us to attain civilization at the current way we enjoy it, is going to come down to this conflict. This conflict between another and another. Let me explain. For most of the history of modern states have been caught up within the definition of others, capital O. Others were something to be to intrigue, to reflect in a mirror. You went into the empire and found the noble savage, who was practically British, or you found the cannibal, the very obverse of humanity. The empires were full then of others, people to discipline or to control, or who reflected what you already were. You didn't learn much from your empire. Your empire was all about you ruling, you seeing other people differently, as somehow other than human. Well, they're not British, are they? And then the 20th century? The 20th century was, of course, typified by fear. You see, one of the things that the young me loathed, and the older me still really despises, about the notion of the big O other, is that it needs an economy of very strong emotions, very powerful, palpable emotions to ram it down. It's like the human self. It itself will ooze out of the mind unless it is defended as a concept by mighty passions that know no other name than it and it alone. And so these others are much about the emotion that creates them, as they are anything real. And so empires were created on a mixture of powerful greed and an idea that somehow the world was different and curious and lay beyond, that rammed it home as other to you and therefore open to your exploitation. The whole wide world a toy. And in the 20th century, those others have been clearly pegged down by fear. You fear the other side. Since the Second World War, you feared their nuclear bombs. You fear the way they infiltrate you. And so the West was for 40 years held down by the spectre of communism, a spectre that haunted capitalists' darkest nightmares, deliberately, because that kept the society in order. And such societies, such modern liberal democracies, were of course typified by a certain economy of fear. And that fear was all about defining a certain other, capital O, underlined in red, that the state was going to defend you against. And that instinct for fear still lies at the heart of very much of our states, how they like to behave. You could see it in the collapse of of the Remain argument in Brexit. That was because Cameron was just simply playing the fear card, the fear card of a big state, and the problem was he was playing it against an other. He needed rather to make an argument about another's, but I'll come back to that. But the problem was, after the collapse of the Cold War, I remember that was what the debate in Cambridge was all about. The Americans are going to have to find another other, I was told repeatedly, by people who thought they had said something terribly clever, and they would then find the another other for America to find. Usually it had to be said Islam. And yes, in a sense, a large part of the politics of the world today has pulled back from that another flip. Oh, we need somebody for our people to fear so that we can hold them down. We need their other. And there was Islam waiting in the wings. But several things have happened since then. The first, and most annoying, is that big states have lost their ability to control the economy of fear, probably since COVID, I think. I mean, it happened a little bit before. It was happening already. But one of the things COVID did was that states played a very, very big fear card. And when it was all over, although actually I think the measures were measured and vaccines do work. Sorry, but absolutely they do. There was another side where the state played this huge, great big fear card. And the real problem was we all knew that something wasn't quite right. And of course, what was not quite right was that big states had defunded their healthcare systems. And so they needed to make us scared as if the bubonic plague was coming to hide the fact that our healthcare systems were not capable of coping with something that was worse than flu, which is a horrible disease, but not the bubonic plague. And that, in a sense, bankrupted for states the fear stock. But it didn't destroy the fear equation. Fear has become, as it has been for the last 100 years, the way you create the big O other for you to be different from. And of course, fear now is no longer in control of the state. On the contrary, right-wing populists manufacture fears for us all to delight ourselves in and feel ourselves different from. For us all to know who we are by fixing an other who we hate, beyond rhyme, beyond reason, beyond sense. We just hate them because we've been made to fear them. And the collapse of the control of fear by the state, and it's moving into a party political province of the right, but also the left, who will play some of the same games. or any political party, is the deep tragedy of our times. All the more so, because those of you who listen to the channel will know that I do think there is something genuine to be scared about. Environmental chaos is bad if you call it global warming. It is simply chaos. Increased entropy within the climate system that will make unexpected weather outcomes far, far more likely and bordering on inevitable. That thing doesn't other very well, because we might be scared of it, but it's hard to fix it down as an absolute other because we're all complicit within doing it. We're all caught up in the sin. The sin, yes, of our forefathers, but also of ourselves. And so we would have to other ourselves and fear ourselves and our own greed. Now, it is perfectly possible to other yourself and be scared of it, but it doesn't make for good politics. The problem is, of course, that in order to understand how we need to create a society beyond environmental collapse, you have to move beyond the simple crud use of others, and we've used them for 200-300 years. You have to move to that system of another. You have to be able to dream of another world. Understand the world as something another to you, as something in which you exist as a part of nature, not a kingdom apart. Therefore, there is no such thing as throwing away. Rubber plastic doesn't just disappear. It lurks in the environment. Likewise, electricity doesn't just come from nowhere. It's generated at a certain place, and that place is something you need to worry about. And here you'll get one of the big battles lines. Just worth pointing it out. I'll come back to it tomorrow, I think. But one of the very big battle lines for power at the moment is going to be power production. Because one of the other places that states have exercised their control is by controlling how power and sewage and all the rest of it are provided. But in a world of another's, in a world where you actually have to think about it all yourself, all the power shifts. So if you want to understand how you have to think about the world in which you are living in now, a world in which human tendency to other nature, to see it as just a resource to be plundered, something you can look at with avarice eyes, as colonials once looked upon Africa with avarice eyes. You have to say, no, it's not something different from me, but it is something another to me. It's something I have to exist in, exist with, exist through. Not something I can ever control, but something that is caught up in the effects of what I am and what I will be and how I shift and how I change. The problem is, of course, that the very concept of another is difficult for modern states as they have constituted themselves for 200 years or so to comprehend. Marx thought it would need a revolution. The anothering was communism, watching like a spectre, haunting capitalism, being both its other but also its another. That which it couldn't help but create, that would one day supplant it. Oh, I wish so badly. But it isn't true, is it? And we're left with this problem of how we allow states to create anothers. Now, how we so another the state that it has to be happy, midwifing, helping, aiding in a world of another, when all it wants to do is scream about the other, and because that is easy to deal with. Fictional enemies are the most simple to defeat after all. Or so the logic rings. And yet with us, our another is ourselves. And we have to understand ourselves as somehow other to what we are, and become another from what we currently are, if we are going to survive into another time at all.